Penny podcast, where our goal is to help you reach your potential by increasing clarity, building confidence, and engaging courage. Heather is a leadership coach, trusted advisor, and admired author. I'm Christina Morales. I'm a writer and marketer, and Heather is my dear friend and confidant. Today, we're going to share how to build confidence. Honestly, I'm surprised that in my mid-40s, don't tell anybody, I don't have the confidence that I should or that I thought I would. And I know that I'm not alone. And confidence is one of your key talking points, Heather. So help us to get the confidence that we need to reach our goals and our potential. Can you tell us a little bit about why confidence is one of the cornerstone topics that you talk about?
Oh, sure. I'll give you a little secret here. Everyone who's confident has dealt with insecurity and fear. And I think that we forget that. We just get to see the end product, and I think that's the number one thing when I speak about confidence. It's like I kind of want to kick the pedestal out from underneath me and say, I don't have it all together. I get to speak about confidence because I've dealt with insecurity and fear. And so what I want to talk about is this idea that confidence is this opportunity to overcome our insecurities and our fears. And learning how to do that is all connected to what we believe. Confidence is kind of this idea of what we believe. And many of us don't even realize what we believe. And I'll use myself as a personal example. When I was moving out of education and trying to launch my own company and starting my doctorate, and I had 2 young kids, and I was feeling the pressure of, will I be successful? Will anyone even want to hire me as a coach? Do I have what it takes to be an entrepreneur and own my own company? And, all the fears just came. And what I began to realize is that when you're transitioning or shifting in life and changing, that's when the confidence can really get under attack. But it became a really powerful opportunity for me to understand what it was that I was needing in order to move forward in life. And I began to really hear what I was saying to myself. One of the things that was driving my fear is I don't have what it takes to be a good coach. Now, I would not even have known that that's what I was believing until I stopped and really listened to what was going on in myself. And I began to realize that's why I'm feeling anxious and fearful. So I just started calling that my false belief. I don't have what it takes to be a good coach. And when I put that in a sentence, like I just put on a Post-it and slapped it on my desk, and I realized I've got to change that belief. Otherwise, I'll never be a coach, right? I'll never be clients. It's that simple. And what I began to realize that I was the only one standing in the way of myself. I have all my education. I've got my tools for it. I've got the passion for it. What was it that was stopping me? It was me. It was such the fear of the unknown. I had never done this before. I didn't know what I was doing. And it was this fear that I wasn't going to be successful. So then I moved it into a true belief. I'm made to be a coach. This is my passion, and I will be successful. It's as simple as that, but you're then shifting from a false belief to a true belief. So then every day I just did a 5-minute practice of I'm rejecting my false belief and I'm inviting in my true belief. Because I realized that my mind was actually working against me. And what was really cool is later on, and Dr. Carolyn Leaf is a great researcher on this. She talks about this whole idea of our whole mind shifting and how we can create neural pathways in our brain to help us actually move forward in life and change our beliefs. All of that to me is a very simple form of saying our beliefs are connected to our confidence. So if we want our confidence to grow, I'm not going to sit there and keep telling you, hey, get more confident, Christina. I'm going to say, what is it that you're believing? In the areas that you're feeling confident, you probably have a really awesome true belief. In the areas that you're feeling insecure, you probably have a false belief we have to deal with. The number one, and I can hear it now all the time when I'm working with clients. I'll go, oh, well, let's check that. Let's check that belief is usually what I'll say. In some beliefs I have no way of knowing. It might be that I'm not good at my job. Well, I don't know if they're good at their job. Maybe they're not. Maybe they need to get out of their job. Right? So I'm not going to sit there and guarantee, oh, you're good at your job. I'm not going to fake it. But I'm going to say, well, let's check it. Maybe they're really good at their job. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're ready for a new job. I don't know. But other basic beliefs like I'm unlovable or I'm not enough or I'm unworthy, I already know without a shadow of doubt, those are false beliefs. And a lot of people get stuck in those, but they don't even realize they're thinking that or they're believing that. And unfortunately, when you can't even identify it, it usually goes back to when we were very, very young. somewhere along the way, we got that message, or we began to really believe that we weren't going to be successful, or we were not enough, or we're not lovable, or we don't have enough worth. These are some of the basic ones that I hear quite a bit. And I just go, yeah, we get to start addressing that. But many times they can't even hear it. So my job is kind of come alongside and say, here's what I'm hearing you saying. Do you realize that this is what you're believing?
Mm-hmm. So is one way to switch that belief is just to say it over and over. Okay, I'm unlovable. That's been the voice that's echoing in my head for X amount of years. And so if I just say, I am worthy, like, is that going to shift my mind over time? Just constantly hearing the good voices and putting aside the negative.
Yeah, yes and no.
Okay.
So what some of the research they're showing is, and I've actually experienced this, let's use the one I'm lovable. We start realizing, oh gosh, I've been realizing I feel unlovable. Saying it 20 times a day, I'm lovable, I'm lovable. What the research is showing is they're starting to feel more unlovable. I just go, I don't want to tell people, oh yeah, it's just a quick fix, just chant it. These affirmations are actually backfiring on people.
Interesting.
So isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's cruel if I just tell people going, yeah, just go ahead and say it 20 times a day and you're going to be feeling lovable. Not so much. What I believe, and this is what I did personally, and this is what I coach people in, is you get to start using that belief and say, I know it doesn't feel true, but now what are you going to anchor it in?
Good.
So for me, I might anchor it into my husband tells me I'm lovable. So I get to listen to that and I get to trust that. I get to anchor it in, I believe in a God who loves me. So it's a higher power and says that I am lovable. And I might use a scripture verse to support that. I might move into friendships who literally, I have 2 friends I can think of now who have told me you are so lovable, because it actually was a false belief that I actually had quite to deal with. Funny you would bring that up, Christina. Thank you. A little therapy session for me today. Thank you, Christina. I appreciate that. But you can confide in close friends to say, this is a false belief I'm struggling with. You know, I literally am looking on my desk now. It's got a card that I don't even want to throw away because it literally says, you are lovable.
Perfect.
So I have people, I anchor it in my true beliefs in trusting relationships, whether it's friends, whether it's God, both, whatever. But that's the way that we anchor it, so that it's not something we're holding on our own. Otherwise, we do start drifting off. We're really not made to do life alone. You know, one of the biggest forms of torture, right, is putting people in solitude. So same thing with our beliefs. There's a reason why we're carrying that around with us. It was probably influenced by something external, which means that we need to get a true belief that's also supported by someone external.
And one thing we alluded to in our last conversation was social media. And I have to tell you, nothing shakes my confidence quite like social media, because everyone's putting their best foot forward. And so I compare someone who I grew up with, who now has the big, beautiful house and has the great career, or is a size 2. How do we not let the comparison game impact our confidence?
Wow, it's a great question. It's the number one enemy to confidence. So it's funny that you would pick up on that. It's like you read a book or something. Because that will be coming out in my book, is the number one enemy to confidence really is comparison. I think the first thing is just self-awareness, recognizing that you're comparing. Many people live in a form of comparison. And I'll even hear people joke, oh, I'm so envious of you, or I'm so jealous of you, or oh man, I'm just green with envy that I don't have that. Recognizing that that's really what you're believing is a form of comparison, and it's hurting your confidence. So in the social media, even just being aware as you're looking through it, one of the things I do is, oh yay, good for them. Oh, I'm so happy for them. Oh man, I send them blessing. Oh, that's so rough. I'm praying for them, or whatever it is. I am making sure that there's not this envy or comparison coming up in me. And honestly, if I can't handle it, I get off of it, you know?
Lord, yeah.
Right? Because those days when you're feeling really, you're feeling low, you're feeling insecure, you're feeling fat, you're feeling like you're a bad mother. I mean, you go down the list. Well, the worst place to be is social media if you can't handle it. Now, one of the things is just being aware. Sometimes I'll get on it and I'll be like, oh, it's so fun to see that. And I love
Yeah.
seeing that. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't see that. And I'm so glad. And then I stay active with how I send out a little message to them. So I'm real conscious of how I engage with it. Many people are very passive with their social media. And so they just kind of let it influence them. And they don't take control over their mind or their heart for how they're engaging with what they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Having that integrity piece that says, no, I've got the life I want. You know, one of the beliefs that I realized I was living with was, I don't get to have the life I want. Well, that was a false belief. Once I started really dealing with that, I began to move it to true belief that says, I get the life I want. I'm responsible for the life I want.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really powerful, true belief that really moved into my confidence, but it becomes a huge block to comparison. You know, so the moment I feel comparison, I'm like, wait a minute, Heather, you have the life you want. You're choosing the life you want. It's kind of a check in my gut and in my integrity to remind myself, I am not a victim to my life. The comparison starts being like, poor me, I'm a victim to my life and I can't get what I want. That's really what hurts our confidence and begins a downward spiral. It doesn't just stop at comparison. It starts moving us into a victim mentality that we don't really get the life we want. If I feel that little connection of, oh, I really like that, then I get to say, not that I don't get to have that, like a scarcity, but I get to step into that and go, I love what Christina was doing with her kids. I'm so happy for her. And I get to go do it with my kids. And that's a great idea because it's the life I want. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
We're not throwing over our hands and being a victim or just getting frustrated, because that's saying we don't get the life we want. And so then we're mad that you do.
Mm-hmm.
How ugly is that?
It's empowering because it's like, I'm in the driver's seat. However, it takes away our excuses. And
Yes.
that's super hard because that's kind of like our security blanket is our excuses. Well, it's because this happened or that happened. And that's hard to face.
That's so true. That's why I've got more business than I can keep up with. Because it's that I do like come alongside people and I'm like, yeah, there's no more excuses. By the time someone gets, they're done with their excuses, they're tired of their excuses, and they're ready for the truth. And we all know that, right? When we're done with our excuses, we're like, life's not working for me. I need a new way.
Mm-hmm. I would love to hear your tools for, personally, I have triggers. So there's certain people, certain family you have to just live with. And I have these trigger points that bring up insecurity, negativity, making me feel unworthy. But these are my issues, and I need to figure out how to deal with it because that's not going to change. So I need to. How can I deal with that on a personal basis? We're getting real here.
Yeah, well said. Well, yeah, that's, you asked some really good questions. These are some good ones. Okay, so families, I heard someone say this, John Eldredge said this, it's like kryptonite. You feel like Superman, all of a sudden you get around family, it's all of a sudden like kryptonite. So I always want to tell people, don't worry, family's the hardest to deal with. You're going to feel really strong and powerful maybe in these other relationships, but family's the hardest. And then families really, these are connections that you don't want to just throw away per se. You want to make sure that you're kind of stuck with them, and you're also trying to figure out how to cultivate them. Yes. But if you're in a family where there's a lot of negativity or it's hurting you, you have to be much more intentional about how you enter those connections and relationships. One of the main things I always encourage people is just make sure your cup is filled up. Make sure internally that you are filled up. You've spent time on the tire swinging stars, and when that family member is calling and you're looking at it on the phone, say, can I handle that conversation right now? You're doing a real quick check inside. Most people don't. They just pick up the phone, right? And then they wonder why it goes so badly. Well, guess what? On a 0 to 10 scale of your emotional energy, if you're over here on a 0 or 1 or over in the negatives, and that family member calls, you're going to be set off like that. But if you're over here at a 10 and that family member calls, you go, I can handle this, and you've got this clarity. One of the things I say then is stay in control. They're not going to give you what you need, but you get to stay in control with how your level of emotional and spiritual energy is. So things like really being aware of how long you stay on the phone or how long you engage with them. Recognizing, after 10 minutes, I start feeling this, I'm getting triggered, I'm downward spiraling. you start kind of becoming a student of yourself and what it is that you're able to handle in that conversation.
That's so smart.
And then the other thing I always remind people too is be careful you don't keep attracting those same type. You know, get the new ones and the new relationships so that your family or some of these challenging relationships in your family are the only ones that are in your life. You don't have to put up with anyone else, you know? So why are we?
Yeah.
So I had to be real careful with, I had some challenging relationships in my family too. And I realized I was attracting some of the same ones because I was used to it.
Wow.
So I started realizing, no, I got to manage it over here in my family, but I don't have to manage it in the world. So I just started saying, nope, that doesn't work for me. And started really creating the relationships that I wanted to build. And then I'd be very conscious of how I interacted with some of the challenging family members. And honestly, if I was having a hard time, I think that's the thing people want. And it's a false belief. If you have challenging family members, you think they're supposed to be there for you. They're not, and they can't. So if you keep trying that, it's not going to work. And it's never going to go well for either of you. So the most loving thing you can do for them and yourself is to let them off the hook, go find what you need, and still have some sort of a loving connection for them that just knows, yeah, they can't give me what I need. So when I do talk with them or connect with them, I'm not needy or I'm not looking for something. I'm just trying to stay in a loving relationship, but I'm getting my needs met elsewhere. Does that make sense?
Immensely. I'm like, you're changing my life at this moment. Seriously. So yeah, that's gold. Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Sure.
And we're talking about confidence. I think as women too, sometimes confidence gets confused or it becomes a synonym of ego or arrogance, which clearly isn't true. Why do you think confidence sometimes gets confused with being proud or being arrogant or ego?
Yeah, I always joke there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. And I think my first thing is just an answer of grace where I go, yeah, I just let people off the hook. You're never going to have that really strong clarity of this is confidence and this is arrogance. No, sometimes they're kind of intermingled and it's okay. So I guess I always say that first because no one's perfect. The other thing too is I just say is I think we need to check our beliefs around what is arrogance and what is confidence. Many people don't have a clear definition of it. Their clarity is very lacking on what confidence is. And so the moment they get accused of being arrogant, they wither and die right there because they think the whole thing was arrogant. And I want to sit there and I look at it and I go, let's dissect this a little bit. Maybe when you got up and you said you needed a raise and you went up, or let me give it a good example. This is one I encountered. You went to your supervisor and said, I'd like a raise. I've been here for 5 years and I've gotten a raise. And the supervisor accused you of being arrogant, but in reality, it was really a confident move on your part. Well, then you go away and you think I'm an arrogant person and I'm never going to ask for a raise again. Or you go the other extreme and you say, doggone it, I'm going to go in there with, both barrels blazing and I'm going to demand a raise every time I go somewhere. We either underreact or overreact. It's because we don't have this clarity on what is confidence. No, confidence is going in and saying, nope, I've thought through this. I deserve a raise. And here's a good, 10% raise or 3% raise. And I've thought through the logistics of it. And I think it's fair. If the supervisor then responds negatively, that's them shaming you and trying to name call you into something that you're not. So that's where a lot of people kind of wither. Why? The supervisor might have had a bad day, might not really agree with you, doesn't know how to professionally do it. Who knows what their reasoning is? It's not yours to take on or your junk to own. But if there's then this confusion there and you've been called arrogant, when in reality you're doing something out of confidence, well, then your confidence it takes a big hit. So you kind of go through life thinking that your confidence is really arrogance when it's not true.
Can you give us the definition of confidence versus arrogance?
Well, I'll try. I'm not a Webster dictionary, but I'll give you what I think in my own words. I think confidence is knowing what you believe and matching your action with it. Arrogance is trying to pose and be something you're not.
That's good.
Is that good?
That's great.
All right. So I think the biggest thing that I attach my confidence to is No, I'm doing the best I can. Am I doing it perfect all the time? No, I'm going to let myself off the hook on that. Do I know it all? No, I don't. Maybe I don't deserve a raise. I need to hear that, I don't know, but I think there's this sense though of you're doing the best you can, and that's your confidence. Arrogance, I think, is when you start posing and trying to be something you're not, and then you're not open to feedback. You're not open to really what is going on. And I think that's the thing that people get mixed up quite a bit in. And I just want to say, confidence is like it's something you build, and you work on it, and you build it, and you nurture it, and it can be vulnerable. And when you've been called a name, or you've been falsely accused, or you've been misunderstood, your confidence can take a hit. If you don't repair it, it lives with like this broken space, and you don't understand why it is that you don't go ask for a raise anymore. Or you don't understand why, a lot of times you see it in personal relationships. You never go ask that guy out again, or you never go, you're not going to risk having another girlfriend relationship. There's all of these connections where we stop taking risks because our confidence took a hit.
Mm-hmm. So how can we feel more confident in our lives? What tools can we use to be confident in our skills, accomplishments, and talents?
I think first off, you check your beliefs. That's the number one question. I was working with the president of the company another day, and all I said to her was, sounds like you need to check your belief. That's all I said. Transformed her life. And she still talks about it.
Really?
She was saying, Heather, you said that question to me and I never forgot it. And she realized I was believing that I didn't have what it took to be the president of this company, and I wasn't worth listening to. Well, guess what was happening? She wasn't being listened to when she went to the meetings. So she goes, the moment you just said, sounds like you need to check your beliefs, it changed my whole world. I didn't tell her what her beliefs were. I didn't tell her what I think she should believe. All I did was I just gently said, sounds like you need to check your beliefs. She's confident enough, strong enough, clear enough to go, I never even realized that. I never even realized what I was believing. So I think the number one thing is you're constantly checking your beliefs. As much as I teach this and coach on this, develop on this, write on this, I still have to check my beliefs because our world is always changing. My world is constantly changing. And even as my company grows, I am surprised at the beliefs, the false beliefs that will creep in. And I have to stop and ask myself, what am I believing? This just happened to me personally where I hired a conference coordinator. Okay, I'm going to tell on myself here. I hired a conference coordinator, and she comes to my office, and we were talking about doing a conference. And she goes, how many people do you think you want at the conference? Well, I panicked and I said 30. Yeah. And my assistant is sitting there and she looks at me, she's like, what in the world, Ed? And I go, I'm sorry, I panicked. She goes, isn't it more like 300? Isn't that what we talked about? I said, yeah, but I know I can get 30.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if I can get 300. And we all laughed. And fortunately, it's this safe space for me, this safe place, and these safe relationships where I said, I'm sorry, I'm having a sweaty palm moment. I'm just kind of freaking out here because I'm afraid people aren't going to go. What am I dealing with? I'm dealing with my lack of confidence. I'm dealing with this vulnerability, but I'm dealing with this false belief that's creeping up that's saying, nobody wants to listen to you. You're not worth hearing. And so when the rubber meets the road and I'm actually putting on a conference, I'm too scared to say 300. I only say 30. The beauty of that is I was able to be transparent about it. We were able to kind of laugh about it, but I still could not do 300. And I said, I'm so sorry, I can't get there tonight. So can you give me some space and time? It took about 3 months before I was convinced not only could I do that conference and could I be successful, but I also realized part of the nervousness was I didn't want to do the conference now. It was before I was ready to do it. So I had to slow it down and just say, hey, listen, let's take a year off and let me finish my book and then we'll talk about a conference. And now I can feel myself getting excited about the conference. So everything that we're believing behind our confidence is really important. Sometimes we're insecure about stuff because we need to be insecure. I wasn't ready to do that conference. The other thing though too is I have to check my belief and say, yeah, it was all intermingled. I was dealing with the false belief that I couldn't do it. And then I was dealing with the fact that I wasn't ready to do it. So if I pushed it, and I think this is I'm a little flag waves for me when I watch these people doing these affirmations of just go do it. And I want to go, hang on, listen to yourself first, because maybe if you just go do it, it'll be like jumping off a cliff without a parachute, or jumping out of a plane without a parachute, jumping off a cliff without a net. And I think part of the thing I want to say is the insecurity is telling us something. What is it telling us? Do we need to pause and stop and listen? Or is it telling us that we need to push through and we're dealing with a false belief? I never know for sure, but even in my own life, I had to kind of grapple with both.
Mm-hmm. And do you believe you can do the 300 now?
I do.
Sweet.
But I'll tell you why. I got this amazing team around me. That was the other thing I realized is I can't do it alone. And that when I realized my false belief was really kind of like, I have to do this alone. I'm literally picturing in my head 300 names and people. I can't. You know, I don't know who that is. When I started realizing, oh, my true belief is I get an amazing team that will help me reach that goal. Then I was able to relax, lean into it, and start waiting for that team to kind of gather around me. So I think who we surround ourselves with too can make or break our confidence. You know, I have a conference coordinator. I have you. I have these amazing team now that's around me saying, yep, I'm good at what I do. You're good at what you do. Together, when we all come together, I think we can make this work. So that's also the confidence piece. And I think that's what makes me sad sometimes too, is I watch these people, they keep putting themselves in relationships where it's just breaking down their confidence over and over and over again. And I want to go, why are you hanging out with them? They're the ones telling you can only do 30. You know, fortunately I had two amazing women in the room, two of my leadership team in the room. They were looking at me. They both acted shocked. They needed to, and I was so glad they did, because they believed in it and they were supporting the confidence in an insecure moment.
And what's awesome too is when you have your confidence up, now you're going to impact the lives of 300 people that wouldn't have had the tools that you have to equip them to live a better life. They would have missed out too if you didn't get in the right place.
Right.
So it's how we impact people too, which is amazing.
Exactly.
Well, that's all our time for today.
Wow, it goes so quick, Christina.
I know. And I came away with tons of information. So thank you so much. Everyone who's listening, please subscribe to the Heather Penny podcast. And for questions, comments, and resources, please visit heatherpenny.com. Remember, to live your best life, you have to live intentionally. Have a great day, and we can't wait to see you next week. Thank you.
Thanks.